Wayne's touch still burned against Stasia's skin long after the morning light had crawled through the thin curtains. She laid there for a moment, feeling hollow, listening to the faint noises from the street below. Somewhere in the kitchen, Wayne was moving around carelessly, whistling like the night they shared had meant nothing at all. Her heart twisted, but she swallowed it down. She pulled the sheet tighter around her body, shielding herself from the cold and from him. She could hear him talking on the phone, laughing, his voice loud and careless. She picked out a few words she wasn't meant to hear, but they landed sharp anyway. Yeah, she was easy. Not my type though. Just needed a warm body for the night, Wayne chuckled. His words punched the air right out of her lungs. Her fingers dug into the sheet, nails biting into the soft cotton. She felt something break quietly inside her, something she knew she wouldn't be able to fix. Without thinking much, Stasia stood up, moving with quiet purpose. Every step felt heavier than the last. She gathered her clothes from the floor, ignoring the ache that bloomed in her chest. She dressed quickly, her movements mechanical, her mind somewhere far away. She didn't even allow herself the luxury of one last look at him. There was no reason to stay, no reason to hope for anything. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand, heart thudding as she quickly deleted the few photos they had taken last night. She wiped away the texts, the call logs, everything. Every tiny piece of proof that she had ever been here, ever been his for even a night. She erased with trembling hands. When she was done, it was like it had never happened at all. Stasia walked through the apartment like a ghost, unnoticed, forgotten. Wayne didn't even glance her way as she slipped out the door. She paused outside for a second, breathing in the sharp morning air, trying to steady herself. The weight of what she just overheard pressed down on her, but she forced herself forward, step by step, away from him, away from the shame. She didn't cry. Not then. Not as she walked down the cracked sidewalk. Not as she blended into the city crowd. Crying would have meant that she still cared, and Stasia had decided she was done caring. The sun was climbing higher now, too bright, too harsh, like it was trying to expose everything she wanted to hide. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She hesitated before pulling it out. It was a message from Doris, her oldest friend, the only one who would understand without her having to explain. Come over. Pancakes and bad TV ready for you. No questions, no judgment, just a place to be. Until the shaking inside her stopped, Stasia turned the corner, heading toward Doris's place without thinking twice. She let the city swallow her whole. Let it blur Wayne's voice in her memory. She promised herself she wouldn't look back, wouldn't reach out. He had branded her cheap after one night. She would brand him nothing at all, just a ghost, just a mistake. A T the other side of town. Wayne tossed his phone onto the counter, rubbing the back of his neck with a frown. Something about the way Stasia had looked at him when she left gnawed at him, but he shook it off. He wasn't the kind of guy who got tied up in feelings, especially not for a girl like her. Pretty sure, sweet maybe, but still just another night, another name he wouldn't bother to remember. And yet, as he stared at the empty space where she had been, Wayne found that the room felt a little colder without her. Doris's apartment smelled like fresh pancakes and cheap coffee, and for a while, that was enough. Stasia sank into the worn-out couch, pulling a blanket over her legs. Doris didn't push her to talk, just slid a plate into her lap and turned up the volume on some trashy reality show. It was exactly the kind of numbness Stasia needed right now. She picked at her food, pretending to watch the TV. Her mind kept replaying Wayne's words over and over, a cruel echo she couldn't seem to silence. Doris glanced at her from the kitchen, sensing the weight in the room. You don't have to tell me, Doris said softly, leaning against the counter. But if you want to, you know I'm here. Stasia nodded, her throat tight. For a moment, she thought maybe she could just swallow it down, pretend last night never happened. But the truth clawed its way out before she could stop it. I was with Wayne last night, she said, voice barely above a whisper. Doris's eyes sharpened immediately. Wayne? The one you said you weren't going to fall for? Stasia gave a humorless laugh. Yeah, that one. Doris came over, sitting cross-legged beside her. She didn't say anything, just waited. We slept together, Stasia admitted. And this morning, he was on the phone. He called me easy, cheap. The word hung in the air between them, ugly and sharp. Doris's face twisted in anger, but she bit it back for Stasia's sake. That son of a bitch, Doris muttered. You want me to key his car? I'll do it. I swear to God. I will. That almost made Stasia smile, a little flicker of gratitude, but it faded fast. I just want to forget it happened, she said. I erased everything. No photos, no messages, nothing to hold on to. Doris squeezed her hand gently. Good. He doesn't deserve even a memory of you. Stasia leaned back, staring at the ceiling. It should have felt freeing, cutting all ties. Instead, she just felt hollow, like she had left pieces of herself behind in that stupid apartment. She hated that part of her still wanted him to call, to say he didn't mean it, that she wasn't cheap, that she was special. But no call came. Across town, Wayne leaned over the counter, scrolling mindlessly through his phone. No new messages, no little notifications lighting up the screen. He didn't know why it bothered him. He didn't want clingy. He didn't want complicated. He wanted clean breaks, no strings, no messy mornings. Still, a restless feeling gnawed at him. Stasia hadn't even looked at him when she left. No tears, no anger, just silence. Like he didn't matter at all. He didn't like that feeling. Andre strolled into the apartment, tossing his gym bag onto the floor. Yo, you look like hell, he said with a laugh. Wayne shrugged. Didn't sleep much. Andre grabbed a beer from the fridge and flopped onto the couch. You thinking about that girl? Stasia, right? Wayne stiffened. No, why would I be? Andre shrugged. She seemed different. Not like the usual ones you hook up with. Wayne didn't answer. He didn't have to. The truth was, Stasia had been different. The way she smiled, like she saw right through him. The way she touched him, like she cared even when she shouldn't have. Wayne shook his head, trying to scrub the thought away. It didn't matter now. She was gone, probably crying to her friends, painting him as the villain. He told himself. It didn't matter, but deep down, some part of him wasn't so sure. The next few days dragged by, heavy and slow, like moving through wet cement. Stasia tried to busy herself with work, meeting deadlines, answering emails, pretending to laugh at jokes she didn't really hear. But every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped before crashing back down. She hated herself for it. Wayne was supposed to be a mistake she could walk away from. A bad memory, not some invisible chain wrapped around her ribs, making it hard to breathe. She told herself over and over that he wasn't thinking about her, that he probably didn't even remember her name by now. It was easier to believe that than to wonder what she had done wrong. At the same time, Wayne's own mind was at war with itself. He sat through meetings at the office, nodded when needed, threw out empty words about numbers and projections. But in the back of his mind, Stasia's face kept creeping in, uninvited. He kept seeing her eyes, not when she smiled, but when she turned away from him, cold and distant, like he was nothing. Andre noticed it. He always did. One night while they were grabbing drinks, Andre leaned across the table and gave Wayne a long, knowing look. You're messed up over her, aren't you? Wayne scoffed. Don't be stupid. But Andre just smiled, slow and sure. You branded her cheap, man, called her out like she was trash. And now you're the one sitting here drinking like your dog died. Wayne set his glass down a little harder than he meant to. It wasn't like that. Andre raised an eyebrow. Wasn't it? Wayne wanted to argue, to explain that he hadn't meant the words, the way they came out, that it was just bravado because he didn't know what else to say when his friends asked about her. But none of that would change the fact that he had said it, that she had heard it, that she had walked away without looking back. Meanwhile, Stasia sat curled up on Doris's couch again, a half-eaten slice of pizza forgotten in her lap. Doris was scrolling through her phone, laughing at some meme, but Stasia couldn't join in. Her mind was somewhere else entirely. I keep wondering if I should have said something, Stasia admitted quietly. Confronted him, yelled, thrown something. Doris shook her head, setting her phone down. Nah, babe, silence hits harder. Trust me. Nothing messes with a guy's head more than knowing he didn't even get a reaction. Stasia wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe her quiet departure had hurt him even a little bit. But deep down, she doubted it. Wayne was used to girls fawning over him, begging for another chance. Stasia had been stupid to think she was different. Later that night, as she lay in Doris's guest room staring at the ceiling, her phone buzzed again. A number she didn't recognize. Her heart stuttered. Part of her screamed to ignore it. Another part, the foolish part, hoped. She opened the message. Hey, it's Wayne. I owe you an apology. her chest tightened painfully. She stared at the screen, frozen. She should block him. She should delete the message and pretend it never came. But her fingers hovered, trembling. Across town, Wayne sat alone in his car, the city lights blurring outside the windshield. He hadn't planned to text her. Hell, he barely understood why he did. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was something worse, something that scared him more than he cared to admit. He leaned back in his seat, staring up at the dark sky, waiting for a reply he wasn't sure he deserved. Stasia set the phone down on the nightstand without answering. She couldn't trust herself to type anything right now. Her heart raced like she was back in that room with him, wrapped up in the lies she told herself just to feel wanted. She turned onto her side, squeezing her eyes shut. Maybe if she slept, the message would disappear. Maybe if she slept, Wayne would disappear too. Morning brought no miracles. The message was still there, staring up at her, waiting. Doris poked her head in sometime around noon, a cup of coffee in each hand. Still haven't answered him? She asked gently. No, Stasia muttered, sitting up slowly. Good. Keep it that way, Doris said, handing her the mug. You don't owe him a damn thing. Stasia wanted to agree. She wanted to believe it could be that simple. But her thumb hovered over the screen anyway. Part of her burned for closure, for some explanation, even if it was a worthless one. She hated how badly she needed him to hurt the way she had. In the end, she typed out a single message. What exactly are you apologizing for? She hit send before she could change her mind. Meanwhile, Wayne sat in a diner, his hands wrapped tightly around a cup of black coffee. He wasn't drinking. The waitresses bustled around, the smell of fried bacon and syrup filling the air, but Wayne barely noticed. His phone buzzed and he snatched it up, heart pounding more than it should have. He read Stasia's message twice before replying. For being a coward. For saying things I didn't mean. For hurting you. The words looked pitiful sitting there in the message box, but he hit send anyway. There was no cool act to hide behind now. No careless laughs or half-truths. Just the raw, ugly truth. He had hurt her. And for the first time in a long time, he gave a damn. Back at Doris's apartment, Stasia read the reply, feeling a flicker of something she wasn't ready to name. Regret? Vindication? Whatever it was, it left her feeling hollow all over again. Too late? She typed back after a long moment. There's nothing left to fix. Wayne stared at her words. He wasn't surprised. He had wrecked something good before. It even had a chance. Still, a part of him wasn't ready to let go. Can we at least talk? He sent. Stasia sat frozen. Talk? What would that even change? Words wouldn't erase the way he had treated her, the way he had laughed about her like she was nothing. But some small, stubborn part of her wanted to look him in the eye and show him he couldn't break her. One conversation, she finally wrote. After that we're done. Wayne's chest loosened for the first time in days. It wasn't forgiveness. Not even close. But it was a crack in the wall she had built between them, and he intended to use it. Tonight. Your call on where? Stasia hesitated, then typed an address. A little coffee shop halfway across town, neutral ground. Somewhere public, where she could walk away if she needed to. She stared at the screen after sending it, feeling both sick and strong at the same time. Tonight, she would hear him out. Not because she needed closure, not because she wanted him back, but because she deserved to look him in the eye and know she was stronger than he had ever given her credit for. Wayne pocketed his phone and threw some cash onto the table, nerves tightening around his throat. He knew he had only one chance to say what needed to be said, and he wasn't sure if it would be enough. The coffee shop smelled like cinnamon and fresh pastries, but Stasia barely noticed. She sat at a small table by the window, hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't even touched. Her leg bounced nervously under the table, every part of her screaming to just get up and leave before Wayne showed up. She could still walk away. She owed him nothing, but she stayed. Wayne walked in 5 minutes later, his usual confident swagger muted, his eyes scanning until they found her. For a second, neither of them moved. Then he came over, sliding into the chair across from her. Like a man approaching a firing squad, Stasia met his gaze steadily, refusing to be the first to look away. Thanks for meeting me, Wayne said, his voice lower than she remembered, almost careful. Stasia shrugged. Say what you need to say. He shifted in his seat, looking uncomfortable for maybe the first time in his life. I screwed up, he began. I said something cruel because I'm an idiot who didn't know how to deal with what I was feeling. Stasia. raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. You mean you called me cheap because you were scared of actually feeling something real? Wayne winced. Yeah, exactly that. Silence stretched between them, thick and tense. Stasia leaned back, studying him. He looked different now. Not the untouchable cocky guy she had fallen into bed with. This Wayne looked smaller somehow. Human. I don't need your pity, Wayne, she said quietly. I don't even need your apology. He shook his head quickly. It's not pity, Stasia. It's guilt, regret, whatever you want to call it. I couldn't let it end like that. You didn't deserve it. She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat rising faster than she could stop it. You made me feel like nothing, she said, voice trembling despite herself. You made me question everything about myself. One night, and you tore me apart like it didn't mean a damn thing. Wayne leaned forward, his face open and desperate. It did mean something. I was just too damn scared to admit it. Scared that, if I let myself feel anything real, you'd leave anyway. Stasia blinked, stunned by the rawness in his voice. She had come here expecting excuses, not confessions. Not this kind of truth. Maybe you were right to be scared, she said, after a long pause. Because you don't get to hurt people and expect them to stay. Wayne nodded slowly. I know. They sat there for a minute, surrounded by the hum of conversations and clinking coffee cups, lost in their own broken silence. Was it all fake for you? Wayne asked finally, almost in a whisper. Was there really nothing there? Stasia opened her mouth to say yes, to end this cleanly, to walk away with her pride intact. But the lie caught in her throat. There was something, she admitted. But it's gone now. You killed it. Wayne closed his eyes briefly, like the words physically hurt him. When he opened them again, there was no anger, no fight left in him, just acceptance. I'm sorry, he said again, voice thick. Stasia nodded, pushing her chair back. I know. She stood up, slipping her bag over her shoulder. Wayne stayed seated, watching her like he already knew he couldn't stop her. Goodbye, Wayne, she said, turning toward the door without looking back. As she stepped into the cold evening air, Stasia felt something lift from her chest. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't even relief. It was something quieter, sadder. Freedom, maybe. The kind that comes after you've buried something you once cared about. Inside the coffee shop, Wayne sat alone, staring at the empty chair across from him. For the first time in his life, he realized that losing someone's trust hurt more than losing their love. The night swallowed Stasia as she walked down the sidewalk, her heels clicking sharply against the pavement. The city around her buzzed and glittered, but none of it touched her. She kept moving, one step after another, like if she just kept going, she could outrun the part of her that still ached. The corner, a car pulled up beside her. She didn't look right away, didn't care. But when the window rolled down and she heard her name, she stopped. It was Andre. Stasia, he said, leaning over the steering wheel, concern etched into his features. You good? She hesitated then, nodded stiffly. I'm fine. Andre didn't look convinced. Wayne told me you were meeting up. Figured I'd swing by just in case. In case what? He needed backup when I threw my coffee at him, she said dryly. Andre smiled, but there was a sadness in it. You didn't deserve any of this, you know. Not from him. Not from anyone. Stasia's throat tightened unexpectedly. She wasn't used to hearing that. Not without strings. Not without pity hidden behind it. Thanks, she said after a moment, meaning it. You need a ride? Andre offered, nodding toward the passenger side. For a second, she considered saying no, but the thought of walking home alone, carrying all this weight on her shoulders, made her legs feel weak. Yeah, she said quietly. Thanks. She slid into the seat, the warmth of the car wrapping around her. They drove in silence for a few minutes, the city lights flashing past in soft blurs. Andre didn't push, didn't ask questions she wasn't ready to answer. He just drove, the quiet humming between them, strangely comforting. You know, Andre said finally, keeping his eyes on the road, Wayne's been messed up about you. Even if he's too damn stupid to show it right. Stasia let out a hollow laugh. Doesn't change what he did. No, it doesn't, Andre agreed. But it's not because you weren't enough. It's because he isn't. The words hit her harder than she expected. She turned to look out the window, blinking fast. They pulled up outside Doris's building, and Stasia unbuckled her seatbelt slowly. She hesitated, her hand on the door handle. Thanks, Andre, she said again, voice a little rough. He nodded. giving her a small, genuine smile. Anytime. Stasia climbed out of the car and watched as Andre pulled away, his taillights disappearing into the night. She stood there for a moment, breathing in the cold air, feeling something settle inside her. It wasn't peace, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. Upstairs, Doris was waiting, her arms crossed and a million questions in her eyes. Stasia shook her head before Doris could even open her mouth. "I'm okay," she said. And for the first time, she almost believed it. Later, alone in the quiet dark of the guest room, Stasia sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out her phone. Wayne's messages were still there, silent and waiting. She hovered over them for a moment, then deleted them all. No more ghosts. No more what dash of as she lay down and pulled the blanket over her. She realized something. She didn't need him to understand her worth. She didn't need anyone to. She already knew. And that was something Wayne could never take from her again. Wayne stared at the blank wall of his apartment, the beer in his hand, growing warm and forgotten. He had tried to move on, gone out with friends, hit up parties, even flirted with a few girls who laughed too loud and smiled too wide. But none of it filled the hollow space Stasia had left behind. He could still see her face so clearly. The way she had looked at him across that coffee shop table, so calm, so final. He hadn't begged. He hadn't tried to stop her. Maybe because, deep down, he knew he didn't deserve to. Andre had been blunt with him after dropping Stasia off. "You never deserved her," he had said simply before walking away. And maybe for the first time in his life, Wayne agreed with him. He set the beer down with a thud and grabbed his jacket. Sitting here wasn't fixing anything. Maybe nothing could be fixed. But sitting in this empty apartment, feeling sorry for himself definitely wasn't the answer. Meanwhile, Stasia was starting to stitch herself back together. She met Doris for brunch, laughing a little more freely. She got back into her photography, taking small freelance gigs that let her lose herself in light and shadows. She stopped checking her phone every 5 minutes, stopped waiting for an apology she already had. Piece by piece, she was building a new version of herself, one that didn't need Wayne or anyone else to feel whole. But healing wasn't a straight line. Some nights still hit her harder than others. Nights when she'd turn over in bed and expect to find someone beside her. Nights when a song on the radio brought everything rushing back. Doris noticed. She didn't push. She just sat beside her when Stasia fell silent, refilling her glass, making stupid jokes, reminding her without words that she wasn't alone. One Saturday afternoon, Doris dragged Stasia to a new art exhibit downtown. It was all raw, messy, beautiful pieces about heartbreak and rebirth. Stasia walked through the gallery in a daze, feeling every piece like a hit to the chest. In front of one painting, a chaotic splash of dark reds and soft golds, a storm and a sunrise. Battling on canvas, Stasia found herself frozen. It looked like everything she had been feeling, everything she had survived. "You should be up there," Doris said from behind her, voice low. "Your story deserves a wall too." Stasia smiled faintly, blinking back sudden tears. Maybe, one day. Later that night, she sat on the fire escape of Doris's building, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, a sketchpad in her lap. She wasn't an artist, not like the ones at the gallery, but she needed to put something down, to take the hurt inside her and make it into something else. She drew lines that didn't always make sense, shapes that blurred and twisted, and somehow, in the middle of the mess, she saw herself. Broken, sure, but also brave, also still standing. Down the block, a familiar figure leaned against a lamppost, half hidden by shadows. Wayne had come. He hadn't meant to, hadn't planned it, but something had pulled him here. He didn't approach. He didn't call her name. He just watched her from a distance, the way someone watches a star they know they can never touch. She looked peaceful sitting there, lost in her own world, creating something he would never be part of. Wayne shoved his hands in his pockets and turned away. Some things you don't get a second chance at. Some people, once you lose them forever. And maybe that was the real punishment for everything he had done. He could still see her, but she would never see him the same way again. The weeks stretched into months, and life rolled forward in a way that surprised even Stasia. She moved into a tiny studio apartment, small, but hers, where the windows let in rivers of sunlight every morning, and the nights were quiet enough for her to hear her own heartbeat. She filled the walls with her own photographs, raw, imperfect, honest. She smiled more easily now. She laughed without feeling like it might break her. Wayne didn't cross her mind as much anymore. When he did, it was like a faint scar, something that hurt once but no longer controlled her. She had accepted that some people only come into your life to teach you what you refuse to accept. That love, real love, starts inside yourself. One rainy afternoon, Doris showed up with 2 bottles of wine and no good reason. They sat on the floor, eating Chinese takeout straight from the cartons, the kind of comfort that only comes with real friendship. You ever think about him? Doris asked after a while, her chopsticks waving lazily in the air. Stasia thought about lying, but what was the point? Sometimes, she admitted, but not the way I used to. Doris grinned. Good, you deserve better. Always did. Stasia smiled, setting her carton down. I know that now. Somewhere across town, Wayne sat on a park bench, watching the rain blur the city into smudges of gray and gold. He had changed too, though not in the ways he once thought he needed to. He had learned to sit with his regrets, to let them carve out new space inside him. The kind of space that could hold more than just selfishness and fear. He didn't chase after women anymore. Didn't fill the empty hours with noise and strangers. He worked. He ran. He sat with himself. It wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't easy, but it was real. He thought about reaching out sometimes, writing a real letter, showing her the truth of the man he was trying to become. But he never did. Some things were better left unsaid. Some apologies had to be lived, not spoken. One crisp autumn evening, Stasia stood in a small gallery downtown, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. Her photographs lined the walls, each one a piece of her journey stitched together with light and shadow. People wandered through, admiring her work, murmuring about the rawness, the honesty. Wayne didn't show up. She hadn't expected him to, and she didn't need him to. As the night wore on, Stasia stepped outside for some air, the cool breeze tugging at her hair. She looked up at the stars peeking through the city haze, a soft smile playing on her lips. She had survived him. She had survived the worst nights and the cruelest words. She had erased every trace of him from her phone, from her life, but not from her memory. Because even memories, painful as they were, had shaped her into who she was now. She wasn't the broken girl who walked away from him that morning, clutching her clothes and her pride. She was stronger, sharper, whole. Wayne had branded her cheap. She had branded herself priceless. And nothing, not a night, not a mistake, not even 1,000 regrets could take that away from her.